Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Ruger, surprising you with new topics every single week and jabbing you with your daily dose of UFC. And we have a massive UFC event this weekend, UFC 298, going down this Saturday in Anaheim, California. I believe it is Anaheim, California, if I can confirm to deny that. I second guess myself sometimes, but yes, Anaheim, California. Actually, fun fact, we're going to be talking about UFC news in a second, but the UFC and the WWE both just signed something with the state of California for the WWE and UFC to each hold a minimum of 3 events in Anaheim every single year. Not just the state of California, but Anaheim specifically. So very interesting, the market in Anaheim, how big it is growing. All I really know is that they have the Ducks for the NHL. We're going to be talking about the NHL standings here in a bit too, by the way. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting note while it was on my brain. But I hope everyone had an amazing weekend. I'm looking forward to the weekend. That's why I'm all amped up right now recording this, and I'm absolutely pumped because we are going to be previewing the entire UFC 298 card, headlined by Alexander the Great Volkanovski taking on Ilia Topuria, undefeated 14-0 Spaniard. Man, I'm super pumped for that fight. Also on the main card, you got Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa, Jeff Neal, Ian Gary, Merab Dvalishvili, and Henry Cejudo. And don't forget about the sneaky fight between Roman Kopylov and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and the prelims too. I'm so excited to cover all that to main event this episode of the Surprise Jab Podcast, episode number 66. That's crazy. I feel like we just recorded episode 50. This is a rolling by. I've been so busy with school. I've been so busy with just school pretty much. And actually, I'm my internship hunt. I am doing pretty good in that. We're doing pretty good in the internship hunt. But I haven't really had time to get any guests on. My buddies I could do this with. It would have to be on the weekends, and we're always busy on the weekends. So it's still a struggle for that. And I haven't really asked anyone random to come on just because I don't really have like a formal setup. I could always do like the StreamYard thing that I do when we've had Dane on the podcast, but we'll see how that goes in the future. And as for recording, there's just nowhere in my current apartment for me to record well where I can get the audio well and where I can actually have like a cool setup. So I'll continue to try and theorize where I can put stuff out, but as for now, I'm not going to be doing that. Also on today's episode, besides UFC 298, we're going to be talking about a bunch of new fights that have been announced, some UFC 300 rumors, the 48 laws of power. We got 2 new laws to bring to you today, checking in with our NBA and NHL leagues, and the surprise topic for today is I will be ranking my top 10 favorite holidays, my favorite holidays, and these are all nationally recognized, which means sadly we don't get like National Hot Dog, National Pizza, National Kiss Your Best Friend on Lips. Just joking, would never do that. Winky face. No, I'm just joking. I don't swing that way, but let's swing into this episode. So kicking us off, let's check out some new UFC news, because we've had not a ton of new UFC news, but a decent amount for us, hardcore if you will, just non-casual fans to follow stuff. So interesting enough, Henry Cejudo, who fights this weekend, former flyweight and bantamweight men's champion, announced that if he loses to Merab Dvalishvili this weekend, he will retire from the UFC, which I find this very fascinating. Henry Cejudo is ranked number 3 at men's bantamweight, and he was supposed to, I don't know who he was supposed to fight at UFC 292. I think it might have been Merab. I think he had a fight booked with someone. I can't recall who it was. It was Petr Yan, maybe. I think Henry Cejudo had a fight booked with Petr Yan. But, of course, he returned last year in May when he took on Aljamain Sterling for the Bantamweight Championship and lost by split decision. And that was after a 3-year hiatus. So Henry Cejudo, if he beats Merab, he'll probably get a title shot. If he loses, he will be done in the UFC. So his little short return, just about as quick as McGregor's returns, usually are very, very fascinating. Very fascinating, if you ask me. Speaking of UFC 300, UFC 298, it was announced that Dana White, or I shouldn't say announced, but it's rumored right now, pretty much just about official, that Dana White will be announcing the UFC 300 main event and also another fight they're adding to the card at the post-conference, or the post-press conference after the event of UFC 298. So right after the winner's hand is held up for the featherweight championship, we'll head backstage, we'll see what's up, and Dana will announce what the UFC 300 main event is. My money right now, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say Israel Adesanya just because Duplessis. I'd probably say that. Alexander Volkanovski threw out there that he would step in if needed to, which I found absolutely hilarious. But let's say he goes out there and starches Ito Pura, knocks him out with one punch in round one, takes like no damage. He technically could main event UFC 300, but the issue is there's no one for Volk to fight. There's absolutely no one for Volk to fight. And I saw it was a fun theory, like, oh, who would he fight? But the only person he could end up fighting would be, the winner of Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega, and we'll find that out next weekend at UFC Mexico City. Movsar Evlov on short notice. I mean, it's not possible, but it is fun to theorize. So, fortunately, that will not be happening, but it's you know what, Volk, we appreciate your energy when it comes to hyping us up for fights. Speaking of new fights, we've had a bunch of new fights that have been announced. One of which was announced today for UFC Atlantic City. Yes, going down March 30th. By the way, the main event was supposed to be Vicente Luque and Sean Brady. That fight fell apart. Instead, top 3 women's flyweight matchup between Manon Fiorot and Erin Blanchfield, who are both on incredible win streaks. They'll be fighting for a title shot in the main event, 5 rounds. And for once, not to sound sexist, not to sound like that guy, but I'm actually excited for a women's main event. Manon Fiorot, French fire, absolutely brings it every fight, coming off a huge win over Rose Namajunas. And Erin Blanchfield, young gun, rising up the ranks, also on a win streak, coming off the biggest win of her career over, I believe it was Talia Santos and Jessica Andrade actually last year. So she had a very good 2023. I'm actually very excited for this fight. I like both of the ladies, so it'll actually be unfortunate that I will have to choose between them. But in regards to Vicente Luque and new fights that have been announced, Vicente Luque, who, by the way, if no one knows, is ranked number 9 at men's welterweight. And for Vicente, he was supposed to take on number 6 ranked Sean Brady. Sean Brady got injured. So stepping up on short notice will be Joaquin Buckley. New Mansa, that's his nickname or his Instagram handle, I believe. Very popular for his viral KO he got at UFC 254, I believe it was, back in 2020, when he hit that spinning like flying kick on Impa Consagna. Of course, Impa caught his foot, and then he spun around, gave him a little ninja kick. But I mean, I'm super, super pumped for that fight. Vicente Luque coming off a big win over Rafael Dos Anjos after taking a year off, and that was back in August. He got that win, and it was a gritty win. I'm not going to say it wasn't really a beautiful win, but nonetheless, he impressed me. He impressed me very much so. And as for Joaquin Buckley, I mean, this guy is just pure entertainment every time he gets in the octagon. Coming off of an October win over Alex Morono, where it was a very close fight between the two. But this guy has had knockouts over Andre Filo with head kicks. He's had doctor stoppages against Albert Durov, knocked out Antonio Rojo, Jordan Wright, of course, Impa Consagna. And, a majority of his losses are to tough competition. His debut, he had to fight Kevin Holland, ended up getting knocked out in round 3, but showed how gritty it was. And so 2022, unfortunately, had to fight Nasruddin Imavov, but looked way better against Nasruddin than Roman Dolidze did. And the last time he was finished was against Chris Curtis in December of 2022, but went 2-0 in 2023, and he gets his shot. He fluctuates between middleweight and welterweight, and I'm very happy that we're going to get to see the abilities of Joaquin Buckley at this high level, because, I mean, we've seen him, of course, take on Chris Curtis, Nasruddin, Kevin Holland, but Vicente Luque is really a guy who was on the verge of a title shot before losing to Bilal Muhammad. We all have my thoughts about how that happened. Honestly, I still cannot believe that Bilal Muhammad is where he's at today. And that's also another rumor for UFC 300 that Bilal Muhammad could end up fighting Leon Edwards in the main event. That would be hilarious. I actually wouldn't even be mad, because it would be such a troll on all the fans, especially us hardcores who follow the sport in depthly. Also announced, Austin Hubbard will be taking on Michael Figlak. I don't know exactly when that fight's going down. For my fighter notes, I happen to miss when these fights are going down. Let me pull it up. UFC Vegas, something at the Apex, April 27th. That fight will be going down. Austin Hubbard was the runner-up on this past season of The Ultimate Fighter. Unfortunately, he is on a little 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Kurt Holloway at UFC 292 to lose The Ultimate Fighter. And Hubbard's been in the UFC before, but he was cut, came back in The Ultimate Fighter. Very, very, very interesting. And as for Michael Figlak, he was undefeated 8-0, lost his debut against Fairzayam in France back in September. So must win for both guys. The loser will probably be cut, not to be too drastic. Also, another interesting fight announced in our for that April 27th event, which is rumored to be at the UFC Apex, as Dontel Lord Kong Mays will be taking on Caio Bigfoot Machado. Dontel Mays, one of the notable unranked heavyweights. Of course, unranked heavyweights are known to be sloppy and just nowhere near the top level. I mean, this guy has fought a number of people. He's lost to Cyril Gahn, lost to Rodrigo Nascimento, knocked out Josh Parchin, knocked out Andrei Arlovsky. He's lost to Augusto Sakai. He's actually lost twice to Rodrigo Nascimento. That's pretty funny. But Dontel Mays, a big boy indeed. And as for Caio Machado, who will be taking on, he won on this past season of Dana White's Contender Series, but lost his debut to Mick Parkin at UFC Vegas 82 back in November. He got out grappled in that fight, which was really the key difference. So I'll be interested to see how Caio Machado rebounds. For a majority of these fights, I'm favoring Vicente Luque, probably Michael Figlak, and I'm going to say Caio Machado for this one. Last new fight, actually we have two new fights that have been announced, but one of them, Edmund Shabazian will be taking on A.J. Dobson at UFC Vegas 89, March 23rd. Edmund Shabazian was supposed to take on Dusko Todorovic. Instead, A.J. Dobson will be stepping in on short notice. Edmund Shabazian, this guy was being pushed to the top. He at one point was undefeated 11-0 before he had a main event against Derek Brunson and got finished after gassing out in round one. Following that, he lost to Jack Hermanson in 2021, gassed out to round one. Same thing happened against Nasruddin Imavov. He then did beat Dulce Luciambula in December of 2022, but in his lone fight last year, gassed out again against Anthony Hernandez and got finished in round number 3. Edmund Shabazian really needs to work on his gas tank, his energy going into any round besides past round 1. So he's 1-4 his last 5 fights after starting his career 11-0. So this is a must-win for him if he wants to stay in the UFC. As for A.J. Dobson, stepping in on short notice, A.J. was on Season 5 of Dana White's Contender Series, and after debuting in 2022, did lose 2 fights to Jacob Malkoun and Armin Petrosian, both untalented, unranked middleweights, but he did pick up his first win over Tafon Nchukani back in August of 2023. That was actually the same card Vicente Luque beat Rafael dos Anjos. So AJ stepping in, happy to see it, but I've rode with Edmund Shabazian in every single one of his fights. It won't stop now. I will ride with the Golden Boy until his train comes to an end. But I hope he wins. I really hope he wins because he has a lot of potential. And the last new fight that's been announced, which I just find absolutely insane, Umar Nurmagomedov. That is right, the great Umar Nurmagomedov, cousin of Khabib, who is currently ranked number 13 at men's bantamweight, who is currently 16-0, 4-0 in the UFC with 3 finishes, has to fight Belzat Almakhan at UFC Vegas 87 on March 2nd. Belzat is 17-1 from Kazakhstan and is on a ridiculous win streak, number of finishes. And that's because no one will fight Umar Nurmagomedov. Like his agent, Ali Al-Dazaz, whatever, was basically telling everyone, like, no top contender, no one above Umar will accept a fight. The only person they could get was this unranked guy from Kazakhstan make his UFC debut. Umar does not get any easy fights. We'll be riding with him, though. Umar, love ya. It's a shame that no one wants to fight ya. Also in the news for the UFC, they cut 4 fighters in the last few days, and honestly, I'm not mad about any single one of the cuts. First one, Abu Bakr Nurmagomedov is 17-4, but went 2-2 in the UFC. He's on a 1-fight losing streak where he slapped his opponent after the bell. Very embarrassing. Definitely why they cut him. His wins were against Jared Gooden and Ghazi Omar Ghaziev, who aren't even in the UFC. They were both decisions. Yeah, get rid of this guy. We don't tolerate that. Also cut Devin Clark, who just lost to Marcin Pachinio, 8-9 in the UFC. Not very good. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's 2-5 in his last 7. Biggest wins will be over Alonzo Menefield and Da Un Jung. Hate to see you go, Devin Clark, but you did get a main event against Anthony Smith in 2020. You cannot let that go unnoticed. Also cut Stephanie Egger, women's bantamweight, on 2-fight losing streak. She actually holds wins over Alan Perez, Jessica Rose Clark, who she finished both of them with an armbar, but you know what? Lost both of her last 2 fights, 3-4 in the UFC. Hate to see it go, but you got to go. And as quick as he was here, as quick as he'll be gone, 1-3 in the UFC, Zach Palga, who was just knocked out by Bogdan Guskov. 6-3 professionally, all three of those losses in the UFC. He was the runner-up on the 30th season of The Ultimate Fighter, but just did nothing. Just continued to get knocked out, and yeah, glad to see Zach Palga getting out of here. My goodness. But you know what? I wish him best of luck. He changed his nickname from something to the High Chief because he became like a chief in the Samoan community. I'm sure it's very inspirational to the kids when you're getting knocked out cold in the UFC. And I haven't just TKO'd, knocked out fully. Very unfortunate. And our last bit of UFC news comes from a man fighting this weekend, the ever controversial Ian Gary. Ian Gary, of course, from Ireland, the 26-year-old is currently ranked number 10 at men's welterweight, taking on number 8 ranked Jeff Neal. Bad blood in the water there. He basically laid out his plans for 2024. He plans to knock out Jeff Neal, call out Colby Covington, fight Colby Covington in the summer, and then after finishing Colby Covington, take on either Kamaru Usman, Bilal Muhammad, Shavkat Rakhmonov, or Gilbert Burns, who's ever ranked number 1 or 2 at men's welterweight, and in the start of 2025, in the first 3 months, fight for the welterweight championship. I mean, the cockiness on this guy is off the charts. He said he's too big of a star if he wins his fight this weekend for him to go to Ireland anymore. He'll have to live in the United States because he'll be too big of a star. He criticizes people for saying that his wife's like a pedophile, that his wife's a slut. And by the way, his wife wrote a book on how to marry younger sports athletes. His wife is 40. Ian Gary's 26, as I mentioned. And by the way, his name is Ian Machado Gary. That Machado is actually her wife's ex-husband's last name, which she kept and she forced Ian to take. It is a very weird scenario. She's been pulling the strings behind the curtain, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of Ian Gary, but he's just so cocky. I just feel like he's going to get knocked out by Jeff Neal. But at the same time, I've seen what happens to Jeff Neal against top dogs, against up-and-comers. So we'll have to see later on this episode who I pick. But just to let you know, Ian Gary being very cocky ahead of this big fight. Not tomorrow. Today's Thursday. Going down Saturday. February 17th. Yes, I know my dates and times. Bum, 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 bum. So now that we've gone over all the new UFC news and stuff building up to UFC 298, let's check in with some other sports leagues, such as the NBA and NHL. Of course, we always do our little check-ins every other week, usually on our Thursday episode. And as we journey to the NBA, nothing's changed. In fact, the Celtics in the Eastern Conference are not only the best team in the East by 6 games, but they're the best team in the league by 5 games. I mean, the Celtics play an excellent ball this season. Jason Tatum, amazing. Jaylen Brown, amazing. Al Horford, amazing. I mean, this team is very, very talented. 43-12. They are 30-6 in their conference, 26-3 at home, 8-2 their last 10 on a 6-game win streak. Now, the only issue is that favorites like this, I don't really know how they do in the playoffs. I feel like they'll easily make it past the first round. Second round struggle, usually get out in the Eastern Conference. But this team has been improving year in and year out. They've been looking to become the NBA champions. Not even contenders. They've been contenders. I would also compare the Celtics to the Bills of the NFL, except that the Celtics actually do better in the regular season than the Bills. But still the top dog. Also, rise in the ranks. The Cavaliers, 36-17, 9-1 their last 10, are now the number 2 team in the Eastern Conference. Very happy for them. They've gone 17-8 on the road. Very critical to their success. Bucks are in 3rd, and Knicks are in 4th, both on losing streak. Same with the 76ers in 5th. The Miami Heat, 30-25. They're on a 2-game winning streak. At the bottom of the pack, the Detroit Pistons, 8-46 on a 3-game losing streak. And the Wizards, who are about to get passed. That's right, the Washington Wizards are about to get passed by the Pistons for worst team, as the Wizards are 9-45 on an 8-game losing streak. And it was rumored that Kyle Kuzma was offered the chance to be traded to, Kyle Kuzma was going to be traded, I believe, to the Mavericks, like to a contender. And he said, no, I want to build something here in Washington. well, Kyle, you are building yourself to the worst team in the league, and I don't even know who the top prospect is next year. I don't even know. Hornets, though, they were at one point in the single-digit win column, but now we're 13-41, little 3-game win streak. LaMelo Ball, do your thing. Bunch of other teams, middle of the pack, going on some losing streaks. I'd say the biggest story in the East right now is how good the Celtics are doing and the constant shift between the Cavs, Bucks, Knicks, 76ers. I mean, just fluctuating between who's doing the best. But it's looking like the Celtics are going to become the best team in the East and the best team in the NBA this season. But a lot can happen before the All-Star break. Moving over to my conference that I like to keep up with, the Western Conference, as my Minnesota Timberwolves are back on top. That's what I'm talking about, boys. So I'm talking about Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns doing their thing. Timberwolves are 38-16, 7-3 their last 10 on a little 3-game win streak. By the way, season ticket holders, 19-5 record. 19-5 record, that's pretty good. Thunder are in second, 37-17. Clippers in third, 36-17. Nuggets in fourth, 36-19. So all close behind. It's a little bit of a kind of a race between those four teams for who's at the top. Of the Timberwolves been doing amazing. I mean, even if the Timberwolves don't finish as the number one team, we're gonna make the playoffs as a 1-5 without a doubt. So I'm absolutely pumped to see how good they are this year, and I might actually watch the playoffs. I usually don't even watch the NBA playoffs. I might turn in because the Timberwolves are doing so good. Love to see it. Of course, the Thunder I mentioned, they're 37-17, 6-4 their last 10, all a little 2-game win streak. Clippers 36-17, they're coming off a win the other night. Nuggets are on a 3-game losing streak though, 36-19. We're at one point almost the top team. Nikola Jokic, I don't know what's going on with you. Did they become champions last year? I think they did. I honestly can't remember. Suns on a little 2-game win streak are in 5th. Pelicans are in 6th on 3-game win streak, and the Mavericks 32-23, 6-game win streak, 7-3 their last 10. They've been battling Luka and Kyrie. They've been trying to do their thing, get the Mavs back into this, and it's a shame because Luka is probably in the MVP race between him, Nikola Jokic, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I'm just torn on what to do with this Mavericks team. You know, I just don't know what to do. You're not winning games sometimes, but, you know, you're on a win streak now. Use this momentum. Keep it going. Lakers, 3-game win streak, are in 9th, 30-26. And the Warriors, their fall off, unfortunate. Not even as happy as, you know, whenever the Chiefs have their fall off in the NFL, everyone will be happy. The Warriors, everyone's just kind of like, okay, it's over, is what it is. They're 26-26, 10th in the West, coming off of a loss. Nothing too special. Spurs 11-44, still the worst team in the Western Conference, despite having Victor Wembanyama. Trailblazers 15-38 on a 5-game losing streak. They're also bad. Grizzlies 19-36. They're 1-9 their last 10. Oh, that's really bad. Wow, I did not realize how bad the Grizzlies had been playing. But basically, the main story of the NBA as it goes along. Celtics are the top team. Timberwolves and Thunder. You know, Thunder are young guns. Someone compared the Thunder to the greatest AAU team of all time. You know, they're all so young. There's so many young guys on that team. Chet Holmgren, Josh Giddey, you got Shea. You got so many killers on that team. But as for Timberwolves, it's a mix. A lot of young guys. Anthony Edwards has become a young leader. Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert are so experienced bigs. They really know what roles to fill in the team. And we just got Monte Morris in a trade. So we'll see how that impacts. But as the season rolls on, the Timberwolves still at top. Still on the top of the West for now. Checking in with the NHL, which I don't know too much about. So if I say any NHL knowledge that's wrong, you know, correct me. But the number 2 team in the league and the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Bruins, with a 32-11-10 record. They got 74 points. Of course, you get points, 2 points for a win, 1 point for an overtime loss in the NHL, and your points are based on where you kind of stand in the rankings. Because the Panthers are 34-15-4. Despite having 2 more wins, they don't have as many overtime losses. They have more regular losses than the Bruins. But both teams playing pretty good. Senators 22-25. They were at the bottom. They're on a 4-game win streak. Worst team in the Eastern Conference is the Blue Jackets, who are 16-26-10. They only have 42 points. New York Rangers 34-16-3. They got 71 points on a 5-game win streak. That's doing pretty good. Flyers on a 4-game win streak. Devils on a 2-game win streak. Biggest losing streak in the Eastern Conference belongs to the Penguins, who are now down to the bottom of the pack, but we're starting to reach that point where if you don't have 70 points, you're not a top guy in the NHL. In the Western Conference, the best team in the league is the Canucks, 78 points. 78 points. They have a whole 10 more points in their division to win their division over the Golden Knights, who have 68. Bottom of the pack, worst team in the league, though, is the Chicago Blackhawks. 7-game losing streak, 14-36-3, only 31 points to show. I mean, it has been atrocious. And I remember the days of the early 2000s with how good the Blackhawks were. You had Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane. Your team was killers. You won Stanley Cups. You won in the final seconds. Used to be so hype, but no more. Those days are over. Connor Bedard, he'll be back next season, but as for now, I mean, who knows what is going to happen with this franchise. My Minnesota Wild, the only team I actually care about, they're on a little 4-game win streak. They are third from the bottom in their division. So they got 55 points. So they are better than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're better than 6 other teams in their Western Conference. Stars at the top of their Central Division. Nothing too much. Coyotes also on a 7-game losing streak. They've been struggling. Don't know too much about the NHL. Well, I'll tell you, the top 3 teams are the Vancouver Canucks, which, I think it was Cole Walker who we had on, who he said they were going to be good. The Dallas Stars with 72 points. Boston Bruins with 74. Florida Panthers with 72. And the New York Rangers with 71 points. Very fun stuff checking in with our leagues. I could probably go more in depth with the NBA personally, but I like to check in with the NHL so we know what's going on in all of the sports world. Also, what we like to know is going on in the world is how do you obtain power, Zachary? Oh, I don't know. Wouldn't it be helpful if we had a book on how to get power? Oh, yeah, we do. The 48 Laws of Power, of course, as we all know. We have been reading that over the last month or so, and I share the laws that I've read here on the podcast. And I won't lie, guys, I missed a day. I didn't read one day, so we only have 2 laws to share with you. Laws number 33 and 34. I know I was lacking this week. I was busy, though. I tried to get all my homework done before Friday. I ended up getting it all done between Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I really crammed for no reason because I didn't do too much today. But man, let me just tell you, this book is super good. It's certainly something you read before bed. You kind of go to bed like, dang, like, wow, this is such an interesting law. I don't know what to do with this information now that I have it. But without doubt, let's get right on into it, because I've been trying not to make these episodes too long, and certainly without on any NFL news to talk about. They're going to get shorter, and when we don't even have a UFC event, but luckily we have UFC for like the next 2 months straight. But whenever we don't have UFC and no NFL, we haven't really ran into that situation yet. I'll also have to come up with a bunch of random stuff for an episode, because I like to bring 2 episodes every week. Let's stop rambling. Law number 33, discover each man's thumbscrew. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Here's the judgment. Everyone has a weakness, a gap in the castle wall. That weakness is usually an insecurity, an uncontrollable emotion or need. It can also be a small secret pleasure. Either way, once found, it is a thumbscrew you can turn to your advantage. So basically, everyone has a certain weakness. They get some irritated. That forces them to react. I gave you a perfect example. I will name no names, but I do know some hothead people where, they'll be insulting you, and you throw one insult back, and it literally flips their whole demeanor. They're suddenly all pissed at you. A thumbscrew like that, or even something to sort of entice people. Like, I don't know what politician it was. I don't want to say Donald Trump, because Joe Biden, he likes ice cream. Doesn't Joe Biden like ice cream? So, you could probably, if you're going to meet him with something, you bring ice cream to him. That's a little secret pleasure. He might be more warm to, like, a policy you'd offer to him. That's a terrible example, because clearly Joe Biden does not run the country, not to get political, but you know what I'm saying. But for the thumbscrew, there is a certain way to find it. There is a strategic plan of action. And there's a number of steps. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps to finding every person's thumbscrew. We all have resistances. We live with a perpetual armor around ourselves to defend against change and the intrusive actions of friends and rivals. It's true. Us humans, we don't naturally like change. We'll adapt to it. I can speak for that firsthand. And intrusive things that friends and family do can kind of annoy us. Because, your family you're stuck with, your friends you end up choosing. But even them who you like, you can become annoyed with things they do. We would like nothing more than to be left to do things on our own at times. Constantly butting up against these resistances will cost you a lot of energy. One of the most important things to realize about people, though, is that they all have a weakness, some part of their psychological armor that will not resist, that will bend to your will if you find it and push on it. Some people wear their weaknesses openly, others disguise them. Those who disguise them are often the ones most effectively undone through that one chink in their armor. In playing your assault, keep these principles in mind. So let's go over these principles. So if you ever need to get to someone, you can learn how to find their thumbscrew. First off, pay attention to gestures and unconscious signals. This should be very easy. It's not easy to do, and not everyone's the same. If you suspect that someone has a particular soft spot, probe for it indirectly. The key is not only what you look for, but where and how you look. Such as someone tapping their fingers, such as where they lick their lips, they bat their eyes a lot, they look around, they seem impatient. Sort of stuff like that. A clever trick used by the 19th century French statesman Talleyrand is to appear open to the other person, to share a secret with them. It can be a completely made up one, or it can be real but of no great importance to you. The important thing is that it should seem to come from the heart. Now, this is super devious, but you have to think of using it for something good. Don't use it for evil. Don't use it to manipulate someone, because, I'm a bad liar, so I can never really do that. Of course, Talleyrand was the man linked to Napoleon. He actually had Napoleon free himself after getting him exiled, and then basically joined back up with him, and then had Napoleon oust his own self somehow. Talleyrand was a master of the game of power. But to do this, to open up to someone with a secret, it's just how you get information out of someone. I know for a fact if someone's sharing a secret with me, it's not just that I feel inclined to tell them a secret of my own, but it's that I feel comfortable with them. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can open up to you too since you just opened up to me, or I can be a bit more gentle with you. So, always try and say something, but never tell an actual deep, dark secret, especially to a stranger, someone you're trying to obtain power from, because then they have leverage over you and they could be playing the game against you. Second step in finding the thumbscrew is find the helpless child. That's right, find a single helpless child. No, that is, of course, a metaphor. Most weaknesses begin in childhood before the self builds up compensatory defenses. Wow, compensatory. If I can even do my grammar. Perhaps the child was pampered or indulged in a particular area, or perhaps a certain emotional need went unfulfilled. As he or she grows older, the indulgence or the deficiency may be buried but never disappears. Knowing about a childhood need gives you a powerful key to a person's weakness. I absolutely love this because I'm a firm believer that people act a certain way they do. They have a certain insecurity. They have a certain reason they act a certain way because of something that happened in child. Take me, for example. I really had no trauma growing up. I've had a pretty, not to flaunt, I had an amazing life so far. So, I've kind of been blessed with, I've seen sadness, I've seen anger, I've seen a majority happiness. I never really lacked in getting any emotion to me. Now, a perfect example of this would be what people refer to, not to offend women, but, having mommy issues or daddy issues. It goes for men too. But, I've certainly talked to girls who have mommy issues and daddy issues, and you can see they certainly lack in a certain department. Girls with daddy issues, they're looking for an assertive man. Girls with mommy issues, they kind of just want to boss around a guy because they only have their dad around. It's kind of an interesting aspect when you look at it. And I honestly pointed out to people who actually experience trauma, I'd say abuse, is that you can kind of tell that kept in secret affects them in ways. And I don't know if it's sharing it's the best way. I just feel like if you keep something in too long, it can kind of eat you alive from the inside, something like that. By sharing it, it can be good. But as for the game of power, you have to find that weakness from the childhood and use it to your favor. Number 3 is look for contrasts. An overt trait often conceals its opposite. People who thump their chests are often big cowards. That can be very true. A prudish exterior may hide a less vicious soul. The uptight are often screaming for adventure. Yes. The shy are dying for attention. Also true. By probing beyond appearances, you will often find people's weaknesses in the opposite of the qualities they reveal to you. I'll say this can certainly be true. I know whenever I've gone through a sad period, I'm out in public, I'm acting all happy, but then you come back and you're all sad. Or, if you're not talking in a social setting, you secretly want people to talk to you. But even when they may like ask you like, oh, hey, is everything okay? Just something when people ask you, hey, is everything okay? You feel inclined to say all's good because you don't want to burden them with having to discuss things. But, if you're looking to find the constraints of the contrast is the word. Look for contrast. Look for that trait, not constraints. Too many close words in this book, I swear. Step number 4, find the weak link. Sometimes in your search for weakness is not what, but who that matters. In today's versions of the court, there is often someone behind the scenes who has a great deal of power, tremendous influence over the person superficially on top. Think of Joe Biden, for example. He doesn't do anything for the country. It's his cabinet and the superiors above him that just use him to, basically be their little mascot. They just kind of throw him out there, and it's like, oh, he's making the laws. No, not at all. Perfect example. By winning the favor of this weak link in the group, you can indirectly influence the king, So take, oh my gosh, it was President Nixon's freaking Secretary of State. We might get his name later on. I'm trying to remember. Henry Kissinger, that's his name. Henry Kissinger was a master at this, as he was the one that influenced President Nixon. So if you got to Kissinger, you could get to President Nixon, sort of stuff like that. Step number 5 is fill the void. The two main emotional voids to fill are insecurity and unhappiness. The insecure are suckers for any kind of social validation. Oh my gosh, that cannot be more true. The pick-me girls, people like, oh, I don't think I look good. Or oh my gosh, no one talks to me. They're just begging for validation. As for the chronically unhappy, look for the roots of their unhappiness. The insecure and unhappy are the people least able to disguise their weaknesses. The ability to fill their emotional voids is a great source of power and an indefinable, prolongable one. Yeah, I don't really get people who are always unhappy. But if you can find out what makes them unhappy, you can learn to kind of manipulate that and get them to do things for you. How fascinating. And the final step to finding the man's corkscrew is feed on uncontrollable emotions. The uncontrollable emotion can be a paranoid fear, a fear disproportionate to a situation, that is, or any base motive such as, lust, greed, vanity, or even hatred. People in the grip of these emotions often cannot control themselves, and you can do the controlling for them. That's such an excellent point. You just have to think that when you're lusting over someone, when you're in that state, you're not really you're not really locked in, and it's easy to get to people. I know a lot of women do that, a lot of gold diggers, if you know what I'm saying. As for greed, think about people who are gambling, who are just trying to win more money. If you mention something like, oh, I just won a lot, or man, I heard that horse is doing pretty good, or that fighter's doing pretty good, you can get them to bet on that more and maybe even lose some money. Hatred, another one too. When someone hates someone, this is like the sense of revenge. They will do anything to get it. We've, of course, read about this earlier in the chapter of this man that was swindled, and he spent the rest of his life, all of his inheritance, all of his money, time, and energy hunting down the people that swindled him. He succeeded, but he lost everything in the process. So if you can do that, you can discover the thumbscrew. Very cool. The observance of the law, they gave an example back in the 1600s of this bishop, and his son became king, so his wife ended up looking over him after the husband died. And to get to the son, this man found out that he could use the mother. So all he did was pamper the mother with stuff. And by getting to the mother who influenced the son, he was able to gain power. I compare it, if we do Game of Thrones terms, Littlefinger influencing Cersei somehow, or getting to be liked by Cersei, and then Cersei influencing Joffrey. Of course, that is not how the Game of Thrones played out, of course, as we all know. Yeah. That's a good example, I think. Speaking of Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, when you're writing that 6th book? When are you writing that 6th book? I'm getting real pissed off. I'm going to have to reread all the Game of Thrones books now, get all caught up on my lore right before I can even read the 6th book, because it's been so long. I am pumped for House of the Dragon, though. Season 2 coming out this summer. As well, I found out they're making an Aegon's Conquest TV show, which honestly is probably the most hype I've ever been. Aegon's Conquest is one of the coolest elements of Game of Thrones. Just picture a handsome blonde man, his 2 handsome sisters. I don't condone incest, but that's the theme of it. Him and his 2 sisters, who are also his lovers, taking over Westeros on their dragons, and just, it's all bloody, it's all gore. But yeah, George R.R. Martin, you weirdo, talk about incest. But that was true at the time. And we've heard about the Rothschilds, who they had their siblings mate with their children so that they could keep the bloodline pure. That is disgusting. Keeping a bloodline pure is never a good idea. Anything else? Let me see. Oh, yes, there was one where this man named Count Victor Lustig, he was basically a swindler, but he visited um, where was he at? Was he in Florida? I believe he was in Florida, and master con artist. He acted like he was this high roller for example. And he was able to finesse people out of money by acting like he was a high roller, so he would mention like, oh, hey, if you want to invest in this deal, I'll put up 400,000, you put up 100,000, and we can call it that. They'd invest their money, and he'd walk away with $100,000 because he would be lying. So very, very fascinating. He would find that weakness by determining who's the most insecure, who wanted to make the most profit, who had the most greed for money. This gives a great number of examples. Here's the image. The thumb screw. Your enemy has secrets that he guards, thinks thoughts he will not reveal, but they come out in ways he cannot help. It is somewhere a groove of heart, weakness on his head, at his heart, over his belly. Once you find the groove, put your thumb in it and turn him at will. So the reversal of this is playing on people's weakness has one significant danger. You may stir up an action you cannot control, such as if you irritate someone, they could seek retribution and take you out. But determining someone's thumb screw is how you can obtain power over them. Wow, kind of dark when you say it out loud. Our second law and final law we'll be talking about for this episode is law number 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. And this is all about confidence, ladies and gentlemen. Don't you know that it's all about confidence, baby? Y'all know that song? Oh, just me? Okay. Here's the judgments. The way you carry yourself will often determine how you are treated. Think about that. In the long run, appearing vulgar or common will make people disrespect you. For a king respects himself and inspires the same sentiment in others. By acting regally and confident of your powers, you may make yourself seem destined to wear a crown. Here's a quote by the great Baltasar Gracian: "Never lose your self-respect, nor be too familiar with yourself when you are alone. Let your integrity itself be your own standard of rectitude, and be more indebted to the severity of your own judgment of yourself than to all external precepts." Wow. Desist from unseemly conduct, rather out of respect for your own virtue than for the structures of external authority, such as society. Come to hold yourself in awe, and you will have no need of Seneca's imaginary tutor. I don't know what that means, but I do know that is a great thing. If you carry yourself with pride in private and public, you will truly feel amazing about yourself. You'll truly just feel empowered. But the one thing about this law, I will say, is you have to act like the king, but you also can't act like the king when you are just nowhere out of power. Like, carry yourself with pride. Don't always go along with the crowd. Don't act vulnerable. There's the word. Don't act weak at all. But also, the issue with acting king is some people tend to get cocky. They may start to treat people like they're subjects, if you will. And that's just not how you do it. Not how you do it. I've attempted to kind of bring out the authority in myself, act like I'm better than people. And, it kind of throws them off because they're kind of like, you think you're better than me? And the goal isn't to make people think that you're better than them. It's to make them think like, okay, this is a respectable guy. I believe the example, what was the good example they gave? I'm trying to find it. It was with Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus made people think he was this amazing adventurer, that he was just born from wealth. But no, he's born a common man to, I think it was a wine or cheese salesman who owned like a little shop out in Spain or wherever he was from. And he basically just created this image of himself as a great explorer, was able to convince the Spanish king and queen to fund his trip to Americas where he went. But in reality, he was not that expert of an explorer. He was mediocre at best. He didn't know much about the sea compared to an average sailor. He had no idea how latitude and longitude worked, and even mistook islands for vast continents. So it's amazing that he discovered America in quotations. Of course, we all know what he did to native people. Terrible human being. But, yeah, he was a perfect example of this, is by he acted like he was the king. He acted like he was the man, and people treated him like it. Because, if it kind of compares to a law we talked about before, is if you ask big demands, it'll kind of catch people off guard, like, wow, you're asking that much as your starting price. I mean, you must be entitled to some goodness of some kind, to some power, if you will. So a very fascinating law. Here's a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche, who lived from 1844 to 1900. "With all great deceivers, there is a noteworthy occurrence to which they owe their power. In the actual act of deception, they are overcome by belief in themselves. It is this which then speaks so miraculously and compelling to those around them." So it's all about having a belief in yourself, which I mean believing yourself, bet on yourself, count on yourself. So true. Trust your gut. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you like yourself, then you'll like other people and other people are like you. I mean, I just never not liked myself. I always like, not to sound like, actually, yeah, to sound like cocky, if you will. I always have liked myself. I like, like your body. If you don't like your body, change it. Okay? Like your mind. If you don't like your mind, change your thinking. If you don't like something about it, change it. All right? But not for anyone else, for you. Do it for yourself. Here's the image, the crown. Place it upon your head and you assume a different pose. Tranquil, yet radiating assurance. Never show doubt. Never lose your dignity beneath the crown, or it will not fit. It will seem to be destined for one more worthy. Do not wait for a coronation. The greatest emperors crown themselves. Not even going to read anymore. Not even going to read anymore. That's how we will end our 48 laws of power. The greatest emperors crown themselves. Okay? I mean... And think about Michael Jordan and Tom Brady, for example. I'll say this more about Michael Jordan is he said he was the best. Michael Jordan said, hey, I am the best. Take LeBron, for example. He says, I am the best. They put the crown on their heads. Okay, the other people then followed up saying, he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT. But if you the greatest emperors crown themselves. Love that quote. Absolutely am in love with that quote. Let's move on from assuming power. We can't be power hungry all the time. We have to celebrate. We have to celebrate. And one thing that we like to celebrate on are holidays. That's right. We love holidays, great holidays, small holidays. Always a time to get together. I actually heard about the lunar Chinese New Year. Is it Chinese or just lunar, like Asian New Year or something? And I heard it's very cool that you get like envelopes full of money. You just like, it's supposed to symbol like goodness and good luck. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. And then, I'm just like trying to figure out what's a surprise topic we could talk about for the week. What's some that we could talk about? And I was thinking, you know what? I really like Christmas. I really like Halloween. I really like all sorts of these holidays. So why don't I rank my top 10 favorite holidays? So I took to the national government page, found 10 certified holidays, and I decided to rank them as my, just out of all of them. So, I mean, this isn't like a ranking of number 10 is the worst, number 1 is the best, but it's more of number 1 is my favorite, number 10 is my 10th favorite. I like them all. I like all of these, and it's just something to mix it up before we talk about all the UFC 298 fights, which I am absolutely pumped for. So, without a doubt, let's get right into my top 10 holidays of all time. And kicking us off at number 10, the number 10 holiday. I bet if you were to guess what my favorite holiday is at number 10, you wouldn't. But it is actually Labor Day. Labor Day is a federal holiday celebrated on the first Monday of September to honor and recognize the American labor and contributions of just labor around the world. And this day always came in clutch, all right, especially at college, because, it was like the second week of classes and we get a Monday off, super hype. Hey, we get Labor Day off. And it was always the Monday before school or whatever it was. But Labor Day, it's meant to celebrate work. And, all hardworking American men and women get this day off. It's just so American. You love it. You love to see it. Labor Day, you are my number 10 favorite holiday. I know people are going, oh, are they all going to be lame holidays? Are they all going to be lame holidays? Well, no, because coming in at number 9 is the one we just celebrated, and that is Valentine's Day. I mean, Valentine's Day, absolutely amazing. Also called Saint Valentine's Day, or the Feast of Saint Valentine. It actually originated as a Christian feast day honoring a martyr named Valentine. And later folk traditions, it became a significant cultural, religious, and commercial celebration of love. So yes, Valentine's Day. I mean, who doesn't love a little Valentine's Day? Who doesn't love a little Valentine's Day? Spreading the love. I love buying my girlfriend stuff, just calling up people saying, hey, I love you, man. And I don't really know if anyone does that. But Valentine's Day is so fun. Also, you see all this red and pink and you get chocolates and flowers. It's just so, makes you all happy. Turning me kind of fruity, actually. I say we move on from this Valentine's Day stuff. But yes, Valentine's Day at number 9. Actually happened yesterday. At number 8, we are going down to Mexico, my friends, because it is a yearly celebration held on May 5th, also my girlfriend Lexi's birthday, by the way, May 5th, to celebrate Mexico's victory over the Second French Empire at the Battle of Puebla in 1862, led by General Ignacio Zaragoza, and that is Cinco de Mayo. Yes, Cinco de Mayo. Absolutely love Cinco de Mayo. And do I love it for the right reasons? Absolutely not. I have amazing Mexican food on this day, tacos, burritos, enchiladas, delicious, some salsa and chips. It's so fun. Everyone's just so happy, like, hey, Cinco de Mayo, and everything's buzzing. We used to have celebrations in school for it, I think, or we learned about it, but it's just such a fun holiday. It's also my girlfriend's birthday, so, I had to sneak that in there. Lexi, there you go. There you go. Your birthday is also one of my favorite holidays. It just happens to fall on the same day as Mexican independence. Hola, señoritas. Okay, coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 7. We're taking a different turn here, guys. It's not happy, okay? We honor a king on this day, and not the birth of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Love you, Jesus. But the birth of another king. Not the birth, I am sorry. And not the death. Instead, it goes out to Martin Luther King Jr. That is right, Monday, January 15th this year. And I believe it's, was it the third Monday of every January? We celebrate MLK Day, the King MLK, in honors the achievements of Martin Luther King Jr., Baptist minister who advocated for black rights, so just rights of everyone. He wanted black people and white people to get wrong. The civil rights movement, that's the word I was looking for. And there's actually a number of states that didn't even honor MLK Day until 2000. New Hampshire, screw you, you're a relevant state. Utah, Mormons, what the heck? South Carolina, come on, South Carolina, be like your North brother. And Arizona, what's going on down there? They weren't recognizing the King's Day. But yes, MLK Day. Oh, man, the Reverend, rest in peace. It's a shame he got killed by the CIA, We're not getting into conspiracies, are we? No, but yes. MLK, I will miss you. I never met you. I never met you. When did he die? The 60s? I think he died in the 60s, if I'm not speaking incorrectly. But yes, that is my number 7 favorite holiday. Coming in at number 6 is the 4th of July, otherwise known as Independence Day, not the movie, and is known as the 4th of July's federal holiday commemorating the Declaration of Independence, which was ratified by the Second Continental Congregation. Okay, blah, 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 blah. The 13 colonies separated from Great Britain during the American Revolution. And come on, the 4th of July, everyone's got the American flag out. We're grilling dogs, we're having beers, we're flexing our muscles, we're shooting fireworks, shooting guns. This is just American pride number 1. Who doesn't love the 4th of July? Celebrate being an American. Yeah, baby. We love America. Yeah, we do. 4th of July, always fun. I always cook up a new shirt every year, usually sleeveless to show off the guns, which I put in work for at the gym year round. But I do enjoy the 4th of July. The fireworks are fun, and just everyone's so happy. So super happy to be an American. It's a shame that we aren't like this always, especially it's an election year. It's election year. Oh, gosh. I am not ready for election season. Americans just become so divided. So I think I'm joining the independent party this year. I'm completely joking, by the way. I'll tell you what I'm not joking about, and that is my number 5 holiday of my list. I don't really have a good segue into this. I was going to say something about hopping since my number 5 is Easter, but I completely messed it up. I was talking about political parties for some reason. But yes, Easter, my number 5 favorite holiday of them all. I like Easter. I always get to see the family. I get Easter baskets every year because my mommy loves me. And I remember being little, going out, looking for eggs, and that was so much fun, find the plastic eggs, find stuff in them. And even what I would do with my parents during the whole time is I would hide eggs around the house. I'd have them hide eggs, and I'd try and find them. Absolutely love this. It's also a Christian holiday commemorating the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. So that's the more important reason of Easter. That's the more important reason for Easter. The bunnies and stuff actually has a more pagan following, because bunnies, they have a lot of sex. They have a lot of babies. So it's actually known as a fertility holiday for pagans. But I'm kind of glad that us Christians, we've kind of turned into more of just like Jesus. We love you, Jesus. So if you know that part of it, it's still okay to, play around with eggs and bunnies. Just don't worship bunnies and eggs. Worship. Do you get the eggs like fertility? You kind of get that. Isn't that crazy? They hide the eggs. They would hide the eggs and the bunnies and stuff. Yeah. I think you all get the gist I'm saying. Easter's number 5. Love you, Jesus. Love my family. Let's move in to number 4 as we get into a fun one. Oh, man. And, I got a little Irish in me, lad. I'm a big Conor McGregor fan. We got Ian Gary fighting on, and that is St. Patrick's Day, going down March 17th every year. And St. Patrick was actually a 5th century Romano-British Christian missionary and bishop in Ireland. And much of what is known about St. Patrick comes from the Declaration, which was originally written by Patrick himself. And it is believed that I don't know if he was killed or survived being killed, but this day was meant to honor him or something. Just a little background on the holiday. But yes, we all get our green on. I think last year I had Michelob Ultras, but they were like lime, because they were green. And, we had a huge party down here at Mankato. It was so much fun. And actually, some kid I went to high school with, I know him a while. I call him a friend, Josh Redipang. I think his birthday is actually on St. Patrick's Day. Pretty sure that's pretty cool. That's super, super cool. But yeah, St. Patrick's Day, I get my leprechaun on. Yeah, lots of fun stuff. Shamrocks. Oh my gosh, shamrock shakes. Oh my goodness. I need to get a shamrock shake. I'm actually putting that on my calendar right now to get a shamrock shake. Wow, Valentine's Day is over. Let me get my St. Patrick's Day move. Alrighty, let's get into our top 10, or my top 10 holidays of all time. Not top 10, top 3. I'm sorry, I speak too fast sometimes. The thoughts just roll right out of me. And I'll tell you what rolls into me, and that is food, because that number 3 is Thanksgiving. Love Thanksgiving. Oh my gosh. It's actually called American Thanksgiving outside the United States to distinguish it from the Canadian holiday of the same name. Isn't that pretty interesting? It's super, super fun. It's actually celebrated in Liberia and Brazil and Germany under unofficial terms as well. But yes, Thanksgiving, we honor the first meal between settlers and Indians. I don't know how that's actually went, but every year, watch a little football, see my parents, see my dog, see my grandpa, and eat some delicious food. Have some Baileys, have some wine. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Actually, my cousin Parker, he was down here for last Thanksgiving. Absolutely love it. It's just such an amazing time every year. And as I get older, I wonder, will I be able to make it home every Thanksgiving? I really hope I will be able to. Thanksgiving, you're my number 3 holiday of all time. Alrighty, let's get into the number 2 holiday of all time, and I hope it doesn't spook you when I tell you. That's right, it's Halloween, October 31st, the final October of every year. It's actually observed in many countries under the name All Hallows Day. And it's just so fun. You get candy, it's all spookiness, spooky times, and plus I just love October. My vibes are always so high in October because of Halloween, my birthday. I just feel like the month of October is always good. I always have good vibes in October. I don't think I've ever had a bad October. As I say that, I realize that my grandma died in October. So rest in peace, Grandma. I absolutely love you. But, love October. Alrighty. Not to dim the mood. But I guess, Halloween is all about dimming the mood, getting all spooky and stuff. But, yeah, majority of the time, October's good. Halloween, usually have fun, dressing up in costumes. And next year's costume, that's right, we are going to be Austin Powers, baby. Oh, yeah, shagadelic groovy, baby. You know it. You absolutely know it. A big Austin Powers guy. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Austin Powers, an amazing 3 movies. Wish they would have made more, starring, oh my gosh, what's his name? What's his freaking name? He's the voice of Shrek. He was on, what was it, Wally's World or something? Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. I cannot remember his name. Actually, you know what? Let me just look it up. I have to figure out what his name is. It's absolutely slipping my mind. It's actually Mike Myers. That's what it is. Mike Myers. Love Mike Myers. So funny. But yes, that is my number 2 holiday, Halloween candy. I actually don't even eat that much candy anymore. You know what? Candy's always fun to get on Halloween. And we get into the number 1 holiday of all time. I feel like it should be unanimous. If this isn't your number 1 holiday, then you must have some childhood trauma relating to this, which will be your thumb screw. Time back to what we just talked about. But the number 1 holiday for me personally is Christmas. I love Christmas. I absolutely love Christmas. There's the day, the 23rd, the 24th, and even on the 25th is just, even every single December 1st to 25th, amazing. December 26th and on, just terrible. But I'm joking, not terrible. But I'm talking the Christmas spirit. It's not even just Christmas Day. It's the whole month of December. You get in the Christmas mood. You decorate trees. You decorate your house. You buy presents. You get presents. You travel to see family. It is absolutely amazing. I love Christmas. You know, that definitely comes from my mother, who got it from her mother, who loved Christmas, decorates for Christmas, is all about Christmas. And I love buying gifts for people more. I like seeing them open their gifts more than I like receiving gifts. And I do like receiving gifts. You know, let's not get that out of the way. I love getting gifts, but let me just tell you, Christmas is so amazing. We always go to Chicago every year. I get to see my family. Just absolutely amazing. Christmas, such a fun time. Such a fun time. Christmas, you are my number one holiday of all time. I don't even know if any of these come close. There is a gap. There's a gap between Thanksgiving and Halloween, and the gap between Halloween and Christmas is greater than anything. And nothing even comes close to Christmas. What other holiday could even come close to Christmas? Nothing at all. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, those are my top 10 holidays of all time. Labor Day at 10, Valentine's Day at 9, Cinco de Mayo at 8, MLK Day at 7, 4th of July at 6, Easter at 5, St. Patrick's Day at 4, Thanksgiving at 3, Halloween at 2, and Christmas at 1, because it is number 1. That is right. Holidays galore. I'm excited. What's the next holiday I said? St. Patrick's Day? What about April's Fool's Day? Does that count? I don't know, but I'll tell you what I'm a fool over, and that is the upcoming UFC pay-per-view going down this Saturday. That's why we made this episode. That's why I'm bringing the energy to you. We are going to cover all 12 fights on the card and drop my live predictions here on the show. Of course, follow me on Verdict MMA ZR 2002 if you guys want to see my picks for the main card live, and we've been on absolute fire this year so far. We are yet to have a negative event, yet to have a negative main card. I've been doing pretty good on my predictions. So without a doubt, let's not waste any more time. Let's wrap this episode up with a little fun and preview all 12 fights for UFC 298. Yeah. Kicking off our star-studded UFC 298 card, we will head to the women's strawweight division. Oh, flyweight division. My bad. Different women's division, as we see Andrea KJB Lee take on Miranda Fear the Maverick. Interesting nickname, Fear the Maverick. You have to think if you were to read it, Fear the Miranda Maverick, Fear the. You really have to slip it in the middle for it to work. Andrea Lee, 13-8 professional record. Miranda Maverick, 14-5, 5'6" to 5'3", gives Andrea Lee a 3-inch height advantage and 69 to 65-inch reach, gives her 4 inches in reach. Orthodox stance for Andrea Lee, throwing with that right hand. Southpaw for Miranda Maverick with the left. Andrea Lee, 35 years old. She is currently the number 15 ranked women's flyweight. She is from Louisiana. Her specialty is Muay Thai / Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Of her, what is Andrea up to? Of her 13 victories, 3 by knockout, 5 by submission, and she's only been finished once in her career, which was by rear naked chokehold in 2016. Been a while since she was submitted or gotten a finish. Been about like 3 years since she got a finish. She is on a 3-fight losing skid though, and it's tied for the longest of her career. She has yet to earn a victory since November of 2021 when she beat Cynthia Calvillo after the fight was stopped after round 2. She has landed 19 takedowns in the women's flyweight division, the third most in divisional history behind Valentina Shevchenko and Jillian Robertson. And she is one of 11 fighters in UFC history to earn a submission victory by triangle armbar, which she actually got at UFC 262 against Antonia Shevchenko, Valentina's sister. And she has 2 Fight of the Night bonuses, which is actually tied for second most in divisional history for the women's flyweight division. That is Andrea Lee, been in the UFC since 2018, had some highs, had some lows. I mean, her biggest win was probably against Cynthia Calvillo, but since November 2021, she's yet to win. She lost the decision to Viviana Rujo in 2022, and 2023 lost to Macy Barber and Natalia Silva. So it's been a while since Andrea Lee was on the right path, but maybe she'll get it going if she beats Miranda Maverick. The 26-year-old is from Colorado and actually trains at Elevation Fight Team with the boys, Curtis Blades, Neil Magny, Corey Sandhagen, a lot of notable UFC guys. She actually went to Old Dominion University I don't know what she majored in, but she went there. Of her 14 victories, she has 1 knockout and 7 submissions, and she's never been finished. All 5 of her losses by decision. Been in the UFC since 2020, holds wins over Jillian Robertson, Priscilla Cachoeira, and she actually beat Priscilla Cachoeira by armbar back in July, which was her last win. Her UFC losses are to Macy Barber, Erin Blanchfield, and Jasmine Jasudavicius, so she is very, very talented. If I'm choosing, look, Miranda Maverick, I've seen her been doing good. Andrea Lee's back is against the wall, but I'm leaning Miranda Maverick here. I am leaning Miranda Maverick. I think she has better grappling that will favor her against Andrea Lee. So I am going to say Miranda Maverick by decision. So we're going to throw decision onto the sheet, and that's my prediction. That is what I think will happen in the fight. But, it can go either way with these women fights to open up the card. Andrea Lee, she hasn't won since 2021. It's been a while since she knew what winning was like. I don't see her getting back in the winning column. Moving on to our second fight of the evening, Oban the Welsh Gangster will take on Val the Animal Woodburn in a welterweight matchup. Oban Elliott 9-2 professional record. Val Woodburn 7-1. 6 foot to 5'8" gives Oban 4 inches in height, but Val has a 2-inch reach advantage, 74 inches to 72. Both fighters stand in the orthodox stance. Let's kick it off with Val the Animal Woodburn. He is 30 years old, from Florida. He has 5 KOs of his 7 victories, and actually trains at Fusion XL Performance with the notable man Jacare Souza. And this is his natural weight class. Of course, he debuted on short notice back in July, up 15 pounds against Bo Nickel. Unfortunately, that fight did not go his way as Bo Nickel knocked him out in 38 seconds. But Val back to get it done. Happy to see the animal getting another shot. Fun nickname, the Animal. Val the Animal Woodburn. You know what? There's not much to say from what we've seen so far, but very happy to see you, Val Woodburn. His opponent, Oban the Welsh Gangster Elliott. 26 years old, from Wales. That's right, this boy's from the UK area. Trains at Shore MMA, which is the gym that Jack Shore owns and trains, or his family owns. Of his 9 victories, 2 by knockout, 3 by sub. He's currently on a 5-fight win streak, and he comes from the Cage Warriors promotion. Last fought in August, where he beat Kalik Brito on Dana White's Contender Series. Used his grappling to really get it done there. Was able to outstrike him in rounds 1 and 3, but did lose round number 2. Very fascinating. Not really much to gather from here. Oban's got the height. I do know that Val likes to throw down after seeing his fight with with Bo Nickel. I'm a little torn on this one. I'm a little torn because I can easily see Val rushing across the cage, using his little reach that he has to kind of knock out Oban right out the back. I mean, Oban does have two losses, but I just get the vibe Oban's going to get it done. I get the vibe Oban Elliott's going to get done. I'm going to ride with the Welsh Gangster. He's also got a great nickname. I am going to say by decision, though. Because I am a little torn. Maybe he'll finish Val, maybe he won't. But I'm just really torn because I feel like Val could knock out Oban. This could go either man's way. This usually happens when I get a little hesitant. It goes the opposite way. So if Val Woodburn knocks out Oban Elliott, I'll have to eat my words. But as for now, I will ride with Oban the Welsh Gangster. His nickname is too cool. That is a dope nickname. That is a really dope nickname. Remember when John Cena in the Suicide Squad, when, what was his name? Idris Elba was like, why do you have small bullets? It's so dumb. And John Cena goes, 'cause it's dope as bleep. That's right. Sometimes when things are dope, they're just better. Okay, let's move along to our next matchup, heading to the men's welterweight division again as Josh Bushido Quinlan takes on Danny Left Hand to God Barlow. Wow. Gentlemen, we really have to assess our nicknames. I don't know if they're that good. Josh Quinlan 6-1 with a 1-0 contest. Danny Barlow an undefeated 7-0. 2 inches in height for Danny, 6'2" to 6 foot, and 7 inches in reach for Danny Barlow, 79 inches to 72. Wow, he stands southpaw, so Danny's throwing that left hand. Of course, I should have known left hand to God. And Josh Quinlan stands orthodox. Oh man, this one's going to be good. I can tell. Josh Quinlan, of course, 31 years old, from Nevada. Of his 6 victories, 4 by knockout, 2 by sub, 100% finish rate. He trains at Milestone Martial Arts. Happy to see you back, Josh. Actually had a no contest ruled on Dana White's Contender Series for some reason, despite getting a 47-second knockout. In August of 2022, he did make his debut and had a 2-minute knockout of Jason Witt. How about that? Had one fight in 2023 where he lost to Trey Waters by unanimous decision. I remember that. That was on short notice. Trey Waters took advantage of the opportunity he was given. Josh Quinlan, happy to see him back. He kind of looks like, gosh, I don't even know who, I don't really know who Josh looks like. He looks like a celebrity, though. Danny Barlow, 28 years old, from Tennessee. Of his 7 victories, 4 by knockout, 1 by sub. Trains at Law School, MMA, pretty fun name. Knocked out Raheem Forrest on episode 8 of season 7 of Dana's Contender Series back in September. A minute and 19-second TKO for Danny Barlow. Happy to see him back. Josh Quinlan, I don't know. I see Danny Barlow winning. You know, I'm riding with Danny Barlow. I love undefeated fighters, but I don't know if he's going to get the knockout. But just because his nickname's Left Hand to God, we're going to give him the round 1 knockout of Josh Quinlan. Plus, Josh just lost to Trey Waters, and there's just something when a fighter loses on short notice to someone who's probably not as good as them, that really just dampens how good they continue to be. So we'll see what happens, but I will be riding with Danny Barlow. Plus this was on Dana White's Fights to Watch, or what is it? You don't want to miss this. You know, he does, they post those on Instagram or whatever, and he was saying you don't want to miss this fight. So I will not be missing it, Dana. I'll take your word as is. We move up to the light heavyweight division at 205 as we have this is one of my favorites. This is my favorite prelim. As Zhang Mountain Tiger Min Yang takes on Brenson the Gorilla Ribeiro. Oh my goodness, I'm so hyped. Zhang Mingyang, 16-6. Brenson Ribeiro, 15-5 with 1 no contest. 6'3" to 6'2" gives Brenson just an inch in height. 75 to 81, though, in inches of reach. That is 6 inches in advance for Brenson Ribeiro. So that reach will probably prove very notable. Both fighters stand in the orthodox stance. Let's head to Mingyang Zhang. The 25-year-old is from Shandong, China. And of his 16 victories, 10 by knockout, 6 by sub, giving him a 100% finish rate. He fought on the first season of Road to the UFC back in June of 2022, where he had a round 1 knockout of Tuco Tokos. Some injuries have held him back from fighting, but he is on a 9-fight win streak. Happy to see Mingyang Zhang back in the octagon. And you may be asking yourself, okay, he's got a 100% finish rate. What about his opponent, Brenson Ribeiro? Yeah, Brenson, 27 years old, from Parana, Brazil. He's on a little 3-fight win streak. 15 wins, 9 by knockout, 6 by sub, giving both of these fighters a 100% finish rate. Oh man, someone's finish rate is going to go up in this one, I guarantee it. Brenson fought on season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series back in September, got a round 1 knockout of Bruno Lopez. I mean, these boys love to knock out. They love to submit. I don't know who to go with, boys. I'm so torn. This is such an amazing fight. Such an amazing fight. But I mean, just looking at him. I mean, Brenson's got an inch in height. The 6 inches in reach is what's really getting to me. Both had dominant wins. It's really tough to say. I haven't seen much of either man. I do like what Zhang Mingyang, though. I do kind of like what he was bringing. I'm a little torn, though. Brenson Ribeiro, you know, he seems good himself. Let me tell you what. I would be mad if I didn't pick him because his name is Dope AF. Zhang Mountain Tiger Mingyang, give me him. And guess what? They've both had submissions. And even though neither man really mixed in the submissions, in fact, Zhang was actually taken down in the fight that he won. You know, he was taken down the fight he won. Really got up and knocked out his opponent. I am going to say Mingyang Zhang, the Mountain Tiger, will get a round 2 submission. A round 2 submission for Mingyang Zhang, just to be ballsy, just because, I mean, he has 6 submissions. You know, this guy can submit people. 9-fight win streak, coming from China, down from China, you know? So I'm really rooting for Mingyang Zhang in this one, but this one is just, it's so loaded. You rarely see 2 fighters with a 100% finish rate. It would be even crazier if it went the distance. We'll see what happens, though. I am absolutely pumped for that matchup. Heading down to the small boys, 135 at bantamweight as Rinya Hybrid Nakamura takes on Carlos Pequeño Vera. Ooh, very fun. Rinya is a perfect 8-0. Carlos Vera 11-3. 5'7" to 5'6" gives Rinya a 1-inch height advantage. 69 inches in reach to 68 gives Carlos 1 inch in reach. Southpaw stands for Rinya, throwing that left hand, and orthodox for Carlos with the right. Let's start off with Rinya Nakamura. Oh my goodness, the perfect 8-0. The 28-year-old is from Japan and went to Sensha University, so he is an educated fellow. 5 KOs and 1 sub make up his 8 victories, so 6 out of 8. That is a 75% finish rate. Very interesting. This guy was also on season 1 of Road to the UFC, same as Jiang Mingyang, and he actually won. He submitted Gugan Guzman in the first round, submitted Shohei Nose in the second, and then knocked out Toshiyama Kaza in the final first 30 seconds of round number 1. His debut officially in the UFC, if you will, obviously they all count as wins, but was against Fern Garcia, where he absolutely grappled him to death back at UFC Singapore. 4 takedowns for 9.5 minutes of control time in a 3-round fight. We did just see Fern Garcia get brutalized by Haider Emil last weekend. So, you probably should have finished him. But Rinya, super talented, happy to see ya. His opponent, Carlos Vera, 36 years old, was born in Ecuador, now lives and trains in Virginia. Of his 11 victories, 1 by knockout, 5 by submission. He was actually on The Ultimate Fighter, season 31. So if we don't count his loss on there, he's on a little 4-fight win streak. Of his own, I will say the age, 36 and 28, doesn't really lean towards Carlos Vera. I'll say I don't have any info on him since this is his official UFC debut. I did see him lose on this past season of The Ultimate Fighter, so not too promising there. So unfortunately for Carlos, I'm going to give the nod to Rinya Nakamura. And unlike his last fight against Fern Garcia, Rinya Nakamura is coming out with the fire. Give me a round 1 back-to-back submissions. That's right, round 1 submission for Rinya Nakamura. Both of my Eastern Asian boys, my Japan and China boys, they're getting submissions. That's right. Mingyang and Rinya, they're getting submissions. That's who I'm riding with. That is who I will be rooting for. Plus, Rinya Nakamura, dude, sounds like he's a hero in an anime. That sounds dope. I keep using that word dope. I've used it too much. I've caught myself using that word too much on this episode. Alrighty, we're going back from the big boys to the little boys, and from the little boys back to the big boys as we get a heavyweight banger coming up at men's heavyweight. Of course, there's not a female's heavyweight, as number 15 ranked heavyweight Marcos Rogero de Lima, nickname is Pizao, takes on Justin Badman Tafa. Ooh, I'm a big fan of Justin Tafa. Him and his brother, absolute knockout artists. This should be a fun one. Marcos Rogero de Lima, 21-10-1. Justin Tafa, 7-3 with 1 no contest. 6'1" to 6 foot only gives Marcos an inch in height. 75 to 74 also gives Marcos 1 inch in reach. Orthodox stands for Marcos. Justin with the southpaw loves knocking people out with the right. Marcos Rogero de Lima, the 38-year-old, is from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and trains at American Top Team in the United States. Of Marcos's 21 victories, he has 13 knockouts and 4 subs, so 17 of 21 victories by finish. Very impressive, Marcos. He's 7-4 in the UFC, and of his 17 career stoppages, he's finished 16 of those in round 1. My goodness, Marcos. My goodness, you are dangerous at times. But yeah, Marcos, been in the UFC a while. Since 2011. This is year number 13 for Marcos. He was once at light heavyweight where he was losing to Nikita Krylov in 2015. Submitted by Oven St. Preux in 2017. Submitted by Stefan Struve in 2019. 2020, got a knockout over Ben Rothwell, submitted by Alexander Romanov. Lost the decision to Bulgaria Ivanov, submitted Andrei Arlovsky. In 2023, beat Waldo Cortez Acosta. And then, of course, last time out in July was knocked out by Derek Lewis with a flying knee into a flurry of punches in 33 seconds. So, Marcos Rogero de Lima, you're on the chopping block. You're an old boy. You're 38 years old, so you got to face the young gun, the sniper that is Justin Badman Tafa from Australia. 7 victories, 7 knockouts. Ooh, he is a fun boy. Made his UFC debut in 2019 in front of his home nation of Australia, was shockingly knocked out by Jorgen De Castro. Wow. Did follow that up in February of 2020 with a round 1 knockout of Juan Adams. He would then lose a close split decision to Carlos Felipe and then lose a fight of the night to Jared Vandera. But since then, he's been locked in. December 2021, round 1 knockout of Harry Hunsucker. February 2023, round 1 knockout of Parker Porter in a minute. Then had an awkward no contest in June against Austin Lane, but came back September 2023 in front of a home nation of Australia, knocks out Austin Lane with a punch in a minute and 22 seconds. Justin Lane, he's back. Not Justin Lane, Justin Tafa. He's a bad man, and he's about to do some bad things when he knocks out Marcos Rogelio de Lima in round number 1. That's right. Big Justin Tafa fan, and I now realize I now have back to three straight round 1 finishes. Oh, no, I have a round 2, but I'm on a little finish streak here. But, I mean, come on. Justin Tafa, knockout man, knockout artist. He's improved so much since his last loss to, who was that, Jared Vandera. And Marcos Rogelio, he's old. He was just knocked out by Derek Lewis. He ate some hard punches in that, and Justin Tafa hits just as hard. And after Justin Tafa knocks him out, I hope Justin calls out Derek Lewis. Put Justin Tafa in the game. Okay, I want to see Justin Tafa in EA Sports UFC 5. That is a fighter I want to play with. I need some more heavyweights. You know, of all the untalented, unranked heavyweights, Justin Tafa is not one of them. He is fun to watch. So, best of luck to ya. We'll see what happens. Let's get into our final prelim of the night as we head to the women's strawweight division for ranked action between Amanda Lemos and Mackenzie Dern. Amanda Lemos is ranked number 3 at women's strawweight. Mackenzie Dern is ranked number 7. This is it's gonna be a fun one. Amanda Lemos 13-3-1. Mackenzie Dern 13-4. So they've had the same number of professional fights. Both are 5'4". Okay, 65-inch reach to 63, so 2 inches in reach for Amanda Lemos. Southpaw stance for Amanda. Orthodox for Mackenzie Dern. I was about to say I was seeing too many similarities. Very, very odd. Amanda Lemos is 36 years old from Para, Brazil. Of her 13 victories, 8 by knockout, 3 by sub. 5 stoppage victories in the UFC Women's Strawweight division are actually tied for the second most behind Jessica Andrade. And her 5 knockdowns landed in the UFC's Strawweight division are tied with Jessica Andrade for the most in divisional history. Lemos' 3 knockout victories in the UFC Strawweight division are second most in divisional history behind the same lady, Jessica Andrade. Yeah. Amanda Lemos debuted in 2017, did get finished, then went on a 5-fight win streak, which included multiple round 1 finishes. She beat Angela Hill in a fight of the night, lost to Jessica Andrade actually in 2022, finished Michelle Warson Gomez, finished Maria Rodriguez, last time out in August, was brutalized by Zhang Weili. Zhang Weili won a performance bonus for a decision victory. That's how dominating she was. But Amanda Lemos, she's back, was supposed to take on Tatiana Suarez, obviously gets a less skilled person than, actually that's too rude. That's a rude thing to say, but not as good as Tatiana Suarez is Mackenzie Dern, but nonetheless, Amanda Lemos will have her hands full for this one. Mackenzie Dern, the 30-year-old from Arizona, has 7 submissions of her 13 career victories. Her 4 stoppage victories in the UFC women's division are tied for the 4th most in divisional history behind Jessica Andrade and Amanda Lemos. Her 4 submission victories in the strawweight division are the most in divisional history, so she has the most submission wins. Her 4 submission victories in the UFC are second most of any female in company history, and her 5 fight night bonuses in the strawweight division are third most in divisional history. So wow, these 2 ladies are top 3 in a lot of categories. Mackenzie Dern been in the UFC since 2018. Her only losses are to Amanda Ribas, Marina Rodriguez, Yan Cheonin, and Jessica Andrade. She was finished for the first time in her career against Jessica Andrade last time out in November. Got knocked down 4 times before getting knocked out 3 minutes into round number 2. I mean, Mackenzie Dern has always been so entertaining. I mean, getting knee bars, getting arm bars, getting fight of the nights against Angela Hill. I mean, she is super entertaining. Happy to see her back, but I am torn on this one, guys. I am torn because I just seen both of these ladies get brutalized. So I have to determine who bounces back more. Who can bounce back better? Will it be Amanda Lemos or will it be Mackenzie Dern? You know, I've seen Amanda Lemos get submitted quickly by Jessica Andrade, followed that up with 2 finishes her next 2 fights. But after that, Zhang Weili lost. That's really tough to rebound from, getting that brutalized. All right, she was bleeding. She was bloody. She had no answer for anything Zhang Weili had. I mean, one of the scorecards for this fight was a 50-43. It's like 3-10-8s. That's absolutely insane. And as for Mackenzie Dern, she had been on a little decision streak for 4 straight fights. And then after, she was swinging with Jessica Andrade. She clipped Andrade sometimes, but Andrade just had more power in her hands. And she did show her durability. But man, see, Mackenzie Dern wins this if it gets to the ground. But if it stays on the feet, that's where Amanda Lemos will take the advantage. So unfortunately for Mackenzie Dern, I am going to have to pick Amanda Lemos. I will be rooting for Mackenzie Dern though, but I am going to go Amanda Lemos. And just because I have too many finishes, I'm going to say this goes to a decision. I'm going to say Amanda Lemos wins a decision. And actually, when I played this on UFC, I can usually play some of the fights just by my lonesome. Amanda Lemos did win a decision, so that's pretty fascinating. So, yeah, Amanda Lemos over Mackenzie Dern by decision. I just think the striking will play a big impact in Amanda's win. And Mackenzie Dern, we just saw her chin get brutalized last time out. So, yeah, not much to expect in this one. Let's recap our prelim predictions before we move into this absolutely amazing main card. Random Maverick over Andrea Lee by unanimous decision. Oban Elliott over Val Woodburn by decision. Danny Barlow over Josh Quinlan by round 1 knockout. Mingyang Zhang over Brenson Ribeiro by round 2 submission. Rinya Nakamura over Carlos Ferro by round 1 submission. Justin Badman Tafa over Marcos Rogero de Lima by round 1 knockout. And Amanda Lemos over Mackenzie Dern by decision. And the winner of this women's fight will still be ranked number 3 in the women's division. So that's a big spot to hold, especially with women's fights. Always, it's so easy to get a title shot in the women's division. It's rare you see someone like Manny Fiora and Erin Blanchfield main eventing a card where they both are on huge win streaks. Both are very deserving. Because, as much as Amanda Lemos, it was fun to give her a title shot, she clearly wasn't ready, which is unfortunate to see. But I'll tell you what's not unfortunate to see. That is this main card. So as of now, all our picks are official. From here, they go in the notebook, which I actually haven't written in a while. I probably should, but I don't really need to write stuff down anymore. I have this podcast as physical evidence for everyone to see. I also just found out I have to pay for the podcast to upload. So I am now paying to do a hobby, which I guess a lot of people do. So there's that. And this hobby could one day make me some money, huh? Get me a sponsorship, people. I'm kidding. If a sponsorship comes, it will come. And I'll tell you what's going to come. Our opening bout to kick off the UFC 298 main card, a middleweight matchup between number 15 ranked Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, love the nickname, and Roman Kopylov. Anthony Hernandez 11-2 with 1 no contest. Roman Kopylov 12-2. Both men are 6 foot. Both men have a 75-inch reach. Orthodox stance, though, for Anthony. Southpaw for Roman. Wow, a lot of similarities between these two buggers. Let's kick it off with our number 15-ranked Anthony Hernandez, who's on a little 4-fight win streak. He's 5-2 in the UFC, and he's the only fighter in UFC history to earn a victory and suffer a loss by anaconda choke. He submitted Junyoung Park with an anaconda choke, and in the fight before that was submitted with an anaconda choke, oddly enough, both times in round 2. He does land 61.9% of his takedown attempts in the UFC middleweight competition division. Wow, it's weird it says competition. The best rate in divisional history. Wow, it's very impressive. Anthony Hernandez, his only losses are to Marcus Perez in 2019. That was so long ago. He actually came from Dana White's Contender Series, but his win was overturned. His only other loss was to Kevin Holland in 2020. He got TKO'd in 39 seconds. Following that, submitted Rodolfo Vieira in 2021, beat Josh Friend by unanimous decision, submitted Marc-Andre Barriot, and in May of 2023, his lone fight last year, TKO'd Edmund Shabazian. So not too bad of a run for Anthony Hernandez. Now, he was supposed to fight the great Ikram Alakasarov, but unfortunately, Ikram had to pull out. So Anthony, 30 years old from California, of his 11 victories, 2 by knockout, 7 by sub, gets a somewhat easier opponent in Roman Kopylov. I don't really know if you want to call Roman easy. 32-year-old from Russia is a combat sambo champion, and of his 12 victories, 11 by knockout, including 4 straight knockouts on his little win streak. His knockout streak is actually the longest among active fighters in the company for knockout streaks. His 4-fight UFC winning streak at middleweight is tied for the 3rd longest behind Dricus du Plessis and Brendan Allen. He defends 92% of opponent takedown attempts, the second highest rate in divisional history, behind Chris Curtis. Whew, so clashing of styles here. Okay, go back to the same height and reach. Oh man, this is a close one, boys. This is a very close fight. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't like Anthony Hernandez for some reason, and I like Roman Kopylov for some reason. Roman has his win streak started in 2022 after he knocked out Alessio De Chirchio in round 3, and then knocked out Punahele Soriano in January last year with a head kick in round 2, knocked out Claudio Ribera in July in round 2 with a head kick, and knocked out Josh Friend with a knockout punch in September. So his boy, Combat Sambo, I mean, you throw kicks, he gets it done, defends 92% of takedowns, but Anthony Hernandez lands 62% of his takedowns. It's definitely a clashing of styles. Might I add, on this little win streak Anthony Hernandez has, in his last 3 fights, he has landed 22 takedowns. Okay, that's absolutely insane. And in all of his UFC career, he has actually landed 28 takedowns overall, which is absolutely insane. So, I mean, what does he average? Like 4 takedowns a fight or something like that? Can I see it? Takedown average. He averages 6.79 takedowns per fight. That is absolutely insane, unheard of. But Anthony, I hate to say this is short notice, and you're about to get a rude awakening when Roman Kopylov marches in from Russia and surprisingly knocks him out in round number 1. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Give me Roman Kopylov. Come on, Roman Kopylov. I've seen more footage of him, his knockout abilities, his quick strike power, and even though he hasn't gotten a finish in round 1 yet in the UFC so far, I predict he does. I predict he stuns Anthony off the bat, maybe with a body kick or something. And as long as Roman can defend the takedowns, that's the key to success. If it gets to the ground, though, that'll be Anthony Hernandez's area? Yeah, that's the area that Anthony Hernandez wants the fight to get to. So, clashing of styles. Grounds for Anthony, feeder for Roman. Let's see who wins the battle. But give me Roman Kopylov, and then he'll become ranked. That would be very cool to see. Alrighty, let's get into our next matchup, because this is absolutely insane. This could be the co-main event. This could also be the main event of a fight night in a popular crowd, as number 2 ranked men's bantamweight Merab Dvalishvili takes on number 3 ranked Henry Cejudo. Oh man, this is going to be an absolutely amazing fight. I am pumped. I'm pumped for this fight. Holy cow. Merab the Machine Dvalishvili takes on Henry Triple C Cejudo. Merab is 16-4, Henry 16-3, 5'6" to 5'4", 2 inches in height for Merab, 68 inches in reach for Merab, 64 for Henry, so that's 4 inches in advantage for Merab. Both fighters fight orthodox. Let's start off with Merab. Merab, 33 years old. He is from Georgia. That boy is from Georgia, the country. Absolutely crazy. Trains at Sarah BJJ, Sarah Jiu-Jitsu. Aljamain Sterling, the most notable fighter there. They're basically best buds. And Merab, of his 16 victories, only 3 knockouts and 1 sub. Okay, so this is a decision machine, 12 decision victories. But he's on a 9-fight win streak. He has not lost since 2018. Wow. Merab is his wait, why does it say 8-fight win streak? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's on a 9-fight win streak. Where are they is one of these fights at featherweight? Because this says Merab's 8-fight UFC winning streak at bantamweight is the longest active streak in division history. I don't know if he fought at featherweight at any point. I don't think he did. Anyways, he has earned 8 of his 9 UFC victories by decision. The only okay. So yeah, that is correct. So basically, one of Merab's fights on his 9-fight win streak was actually at featherweight, not at bantamweight. So he's technically on an 8-fight bantamweight win streak. His 61 takedowns landed in UFC bantamweight competition are the most in divisional history. Yeah, this boy lands a lot of takedowns, coming off an 11 takedown performance against Petr Yan. He's the only fighter in UFC history to land 10 or more takedowns in 4 separate UFC fights. He attempted 49 takedowns last time out against Petr Yan's a single fight record in the UFC, and he actually outlanded Marlon Moraes in his 2021 stoppage victory of him by a 212, which is the largest differential in a single UFC bantamweight bout in history. All right, this guy is super talented. They call him the Machine for a reason. I mean, he's been on the run of a lifetime. It all started when he finished Marlon Moraes, beat Jose Aldo in 2022, actually retired Jose Aldo. And then what he did to Petr Yan in March was absolutely ridiculous. Don't tune in for a finish from this guy, but tune in if you just want to see unmatched drive forward. And by the way, I mean, the takedowns Merab has landed, I mean, his last loss, his only 2 losses in the UFC, he lost to Frankie Sens by split decision, where that was a close fight. He lost to Ricky Simone when he didn't tap to a guillotine choke, and after the fight ended, he was still somewhat passed out, so they ruled him out. So it was pretty controversial. Since then, 5 takedowns against Terrion Ware, 5 takedowns against Brad Katona, 12 takedowns against Casey Kenny, 13 takedowns against Gustavo Lopez, took down John Dodson twice, took down Cody Stammen 5 times, took down Marlon Moraes 4 times. That fight against Marlon Moraes, super entertaining. One performance of the night for that comeback victory. Oh, man. Was unable to take down Jose Aldo, but was able to withstand Jose Aldo striking. Then, of course, went 11 of 49 on takedowns attempted against Henry Cejudo, or not against Henry Cejudo, against Petr Yan back in March. So, very excited to see Merab get back into it. His opponent, Henry Cejudo, 37 years old from Arizona, trains at Fight Ready MMA. Of his 16 victories, half are by finish, 7 by knockout, 1 by submission. Henry Cejudo, Triple C's, one of 9 fighters in UFC history to win 2 titles. In different weight classes, Alex Pereira, John Jones, BJ Penn, Conor McGregor, Amanda Nunes, Daniel Cormier, George St. Pierre, Randy Couture have also all done this. And he is one of 4 simultaneous 2-division champions. Conor McGregor, Amanda Nunes, and Daniel Cormier all did this. And Henry Cejudo is one of 3 fighters in UFC history to record successful title defenses in 2 weight classes. Daniel Cormier and Amanda Nunes also did this. Henry Cejudo did this against Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw. Henry Cejudo is the only MMA fighter to win an Olympic gold medal and a UFC championship. That's why he's Triple C, because he's won 2 belts and 1 gold medal. He is one of 3 Olympic gold medalists to fight in the UFC, along with Kevin Jackson and Mark Schultz. He earned gold in freestyle wrestling at the 2008 Summer Olympics, and he is the only Olympic gold medalist to fight in the UFC since the organization was purchased by Zuffa. He is 7-1 in the bantamweight division in his career. His only loss was last time out to Aljamain Sterling. Henry Cejudo, been around a while, been in the UFC since 2014. Of course, fought Demetrius Johnson for the belt back in 2016, failed to do so. Lost a split decision to Joseph Benavidez after that, in a fight a lot of people thought he won. After that, went on a 6-fight win streak, which included knockouts of Wilson Rice, fight of the nights against Demetrius Johnson to win the flyweight belt. Finished TJ Dillashaw in 32 seconds, became bantamweight champion against Marlon Moraes, and then became the only man to knock out Dominic Cruz when he defended the belt in 2020. Lost last time out to Aljamain Sterling in a close fight, but Henry is back, but unfortunately for Henry, I hate to say it, the machine will not be stopped. Merab Dvalishvili, you cannot deny the man anymore. Give the Georgian his title shot and give him the victory here. I mean, a decision. I'm going to say by decision. I just do not see a finish in this one. If there's going to be a finish, it's going to be Henry Cejudo getting a knockout, which would be very cool to see, or a little TKO on the ground, but I just really don't. I think Merab's time is coming. I think he's going to become bantamweight champion at some point, and he's just so dang likable. I mean, every time he speaks, he's always happy, he's funny, he's a likable guy, and I'm going to be picking Merab Dvalishvili by decision. I predict he lands 7 takedowns on Henry Cejudo, the most he'll ever have been taken down in his career. Alrighty, let's get into the final 3 fights of the card. We journey back to a familiar division on this card, but this time we're dealing with Ian Machado Gary, number 10 ranked men's welterweight, and Jeff Neal, who was ranked number 8. At men's welterweight, Jeff Hands of Steel Neal and Ian the Future Gary. How about that? Jeff Neal is 15-5. Ian Gary a perfect 13-0. 5'11 to 6'3 gives Ian Gary a, 5 inches? 4 inches in height? Pretty crazy. Jeff Neal does have 1 inch in reach, though, 75 to 74. Southpaw with Jeff Neal. Orthodox with Ian Gary. Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal is always a fun little guy to watch fight. 33 years old from Texas. Of his 15 victories, 9 by knockout, 2 by sub. He's actually had a canceled fight against Ian Gary at UFC 292. Jeff Neal, defends 89.7% of all opponents' takedown attempts in UFC welterweight division history, the 3rd best among active fighters in the weight class behind Kamaru Usman and Bilal Muhammad. Oh, I didn't even know that. Jeff Neal, yes. Been in the UFC since 2017. He's held wins over Bilal Muhammad, Mike Perry, Nico Price, Vicente Luque, Santiago Ponzinibbio. And his only losses in the UFC are to Wonderboy Thompson, Neil Magny, and last time out in March, he unfortunately had to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov, but became the closest fighter to going the distance with Shavkat before he was submitted with 43 seconds remaining. But Jeff Neal really showed his heart in that one, and he's got beef. It's weird with Ian Gary. Ian Gary created beef. He put Jeff Neal's mugshot on a t-shirt, basically tarnished his reputation. But then I've seen him at the press conferences trying to be all buddy-buddy with them. Very embarrassing. Just a bad look for Ian Gary. Jeff Neal, though, I don't know if he can get done. He's 33 years old. He's got power in his hands, but I don't know. Took a lot of damage in that Shavkat fight. Let's talk about Ian, the future Gary, one of the most hated men in the sport right now, being controversial as always. Ian Machado Gary. Ian Gary, 26 years old, from Ireland. Of his 13 victories, 7 by knockout, 1 by submission. Perfect 6-0 in the UFC. His 6-fight UFC winning streak at welterweight is tied with Shavkat Rakhmonov and Jack Della Maddalena for the longest active streak in the division. Ian Gary lands 56.7% of his significant strike attempts in the UFC welterweight division, which is the second highest rate in divisional history behind Gunnar Nelson. He also lands 6.67 significant strikes per minute, which is the fourth highest rated in welterweight division history behind Daniel Rodriguez, Jack Maddalena, and Dwayne Ludwig? No idea who that guy is. Yes, Ian Gary been in the UFC since 2021. Debuted at Madison Square Garden, knocked out Jordan Williams with a second left in round 1. Followed up with decision wins over Darian Weeks and Gabe Green, and then had a huge 2023. Had a huge comeback win over Song Kenan at 285. Knocked out Daniel Rodriguez in front of a Charlotte crowd in May, and then brutalized Neil Magny in April at UFC 292. And I mean, Ian Gary, talk of the town right now. He knows how to get people talking about him. Whether you like him or not, you got to give it to him. He is a talented fighter. Now, I am a little torn on if we're going to see him finish in this one. I know how durable the chin is of Jeff Neal, yet to be knocked out in his professional career. So I will give this one to Ian Gary. I think his range, his kicking, I just think his overall skills are better than Jeff Neal's, but I'm gonna give him a decision, another dominant decision for Ian Gary, but I would not be surprised if he gets a finish. I honestly wouldn't. But Ian Gary, I'm going to be picking you. I'm not really the biggest fan of him after seeing all of his antics this past week, but you know what? I'm not going to discredit the guy. He's talented, he's undefeated, and he's hunting that welterweight championship. Let's get into our co-main event of the evening, and this one is absolutely amazing. So happy we're getting this as Robert the Reaper Whittaker, the number 3 ranked men's middleweight, in the world, takes on Paulo the Eraser Costa, who's currently ranked number 6 in the middleweight division. Robert Whittaker, 25-7 professional record. Paulo Costa, 14-2. 6'1" to 6 foot gives Paulo an inch in height. 73 inches in reach to 72 gives Robert Whittaker 1 inch in reach. Orthodox stance for both of these gentlemen. Robert Whittaker, let's kick it off with the Reaper. 33 years old, from Australia. Of his 25 victories, 9 by knockout, 5 by sub. And oh man, so much to talk about. He is actually the only New Zealand-born fighter in history to win a UFC championship. Now, he does live and train in Australia, but, New Zealand-born, that whole area, that kind of group is one. He is one of 14 undisputed middleweight champions in UFC history, and his record is 12-3 since he moved up to the UFC middleweight division from the welterweight division in November of 2014. Robert Whittaker's 8 fight night bonuses in the UFC middleweight division are tied for second most behind Anderson Silva, who had 12 in the men's middleweight division. Very, very fun. Robert Whittaker, last time out in July, got knocked out by Dricus du Plessis in shocking fashion. Before that, in 2022, lost a close decision to Israel Adesanya, convincingly beat Marvin Vettori. Robert Whittaker, an absolute legend, been in the UFC since 2012. Fought a who's who of guys. He's finished Derek Brunson, Jacare Souza. He's beaten Yoel Romero in back-to-back fights. Beaten Darren Till, beaten Jerry Cannonier, beaten Calvin Gastelum. Robert Whittaker has just about beat them all. Super talented, such a great fighter. And also, he should be the favorite for this fight as he takes on Paulo the Eraser Costa, who is 32 years old from Brazil. Of his 14 victories, 11 by knockout, 1 by sub. He was supposed to fight Hamzat Chimaev in October at UFC 294, but had to pull out of that fight. And he has had so many canceled fights. I mean, who hasn't Paulo Costa been signed to fight? Ikram Alkaserov at some point. I think he was supposed to fight Jared Cannonier. He's supposed to fight Robert Whittaker in the past. I mean, oh my gosh. The number of times Paulo Costa's pulled out of a fight. This guy has no children. He has amazing pull-out game for fights. But, you know what? Let's not discredit him. I mean, has 4 UFC knockout victories. Only losses are to Marvin Vettori and Israel Adesanya. Beat Luke Rockhold in 2022, though, in August. So it's been a while since we've seen Paulo Costa. Might look a bit rusty in the UFC so far. He actually doesn't hold a current win over any fighter currently in the UFC. All signs are telling me Robert Whittaker, but I don't know, boys. Something's telling me Paulo Costa. Something about Paulo Costa is telling me, you know what, all the signs say Robert Whittaker, but you should go with Paulo Costa. I don't really care who wins. I honestly don't. Both guys, I feel, should be fighting lower-ranked guys. I want to see some new up-and-comers in the division. But, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. Paulo Costa has earned 12 of his 14 career victories by stoppage, 11 of those by knockout. He has earned his past 2 victories by decision after he had previously won his last 12 by stoppage. He's the only middleweight in UFC history to begin his octagon with 4 consecutive knockout wins. And he actually lands 6.49 significant strikes per minute, the highest rate in middleweight divisional history. He lands 59.4% of his significant strike attempts in UFC middleweight division, the 3rd best rate in divisional history, behind Anthony Hernandez and Phil Hawes. Fascinating stats there. Isn't going to deter me from who I'm going to choose, which is the man we just talked about, Paulo Costa. I'm going to give Paulo Costa a decision victory over Robert Whittaker. I don't know. I just feel Robert Whittaker, his time may be coming to an end. Paulo Costa, yeah, I don't know. It's 50-50. You don't know what you're getting. The guy just got knocked out badly. Paulo Costa hasn't fought in over a year. Anything can happen. Anything can happen, and anything will happen. But as for this fight, I cannot say who will win, but I am going to pick Paulo Costa. I'm going to pick Paulo Costa. I expect a close decision. I hope it's the fight of the night. I'm predicting this to be the fight of the night. All right, Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. I'm going to put this on the notes, fight of the night. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we get into our main event of the evening. The UFC featherweight title is on the line as your number 3 ranked men's pound-for-pound champion and your current featherweight champion, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, takes on the number 3 ranked men's featherweight contender, Ilia El Matador Topuria. This is going to be amazing. I'm so happy we get to see this fight. Let's get into it all. Alexander Volkanovski, 26-3 professional record. Ilia Topuria, 14-0. 5'7" to 5'6" gives Ilia 1 inch in height. 71 inches to 69 gives Volk 2 inches in reach. Both fighters stand in the orthodox position. Let's start off with our challenger, Ilia Topuria, 27 years old from Spain. Of his 14 victories, he's gotten 4 by knockout and 8 by submission. And he never even had an amateur fight, by the way. All right, this guy went straight to the pro leagues, and he actually got his first 7 wins by submission. I've seen all of his finishes, and they've all been beautiful. Topuria's 5-fight UFC winning streak at featherweight is tied for the 3rd longest active streak in the division, behind the man himself, Volkanovski, and Movsar Evloev. Topuria was awarded 1 of 4 50-42 scorecards in history at UFC on ABC 5 when he beat Josh Emmett last time out in June. The only other fighters are Max Holloway, Rich Franklin, and Dave Menn, who've gotten a 50-42 scorecard, one of the most dominant in UFC history. That means you've gotten 3 10-8 rounds, I'm pretty sure, in a fight. Topuria has earned 12 of his 14 career victories by stoppage, 8 of those by sub, as we said. He defends 67.4% of opponents' significant strike attempts, which is the highest rate among active fighters in the men's featherweight division. Ilia is so talented, so talented. Debuted in 2020, uses grappling to beat Yusuf Zalal. That was the first time he's ever gone the distance. Followed that up in December 2020 with a round 1 knockout. July of 2021, round 1 knockout of Ryan Hall. March of 2022, crazy round 2 knockout of Jai Herbert. December 2022, crazy dominant, just destroyed Bryce Mitchell. Submitted him in round 2. And then couldn't put away Josh Emmett, but after looking what Josh Emmett did to Bryce Mitchell, I mean, we see how good Josh Emmett is, and Ian Topura made him look like just an absolute bum out there. Ian Topura, so talented. He's been so cocky in the build-up to this fight. I mean, it's been absolutely crazy. He's talking about how there's going to be a documentary about leading up to this fight. He's been stealing the belt and posing with it. If he loses, he's going to get clowned so hard, but if he wins, oh, he'll become a star. I'm talking Conor McGregor star in Spain. I'm so pumped to see him compete, but this is no easy task. This is no easy task at all for Ian the Matador Topura, as he will have to face the greatest featherweight of all time, Alexander the Great Volkanovski. Oh man, let's talk about him. 35 years old, from Australia. Of his 26 victories, 13 by knockout, 3 by submission, and he's undefeated at featherweight, 11-0. Amazing Volk. He's the only Australian-born UFC champion in history. Of course, Israel Adesanya was born in Africa. Volkanovski is one of 4 fighters in UFC history to make a title defense after losing a championship bout. That group is 4-0, along with Israel Adesanya, who lost to Blachowicz, then defended his belt. Max Holloway, who I can't even recall. Oh, he lost to Justin Gaethje, then beat Frank Yeager. And BJ Penn. He actually accomplished this feat back in July. Volkanovski can become the first fighter in UFC history to have multiple title defenses after losing multiple championship bouts. His 6 victories in the UFC Featherweight Championship bouts he's been in are second most behind Jose Aldo. He is one of 4 fighters in UFC history to start 12-0 with the promotion. Other 3 fighters were Anderson Silva, Kamaru Usman, and Khabib Nurmagomedov. His 11-fight UFC winning streak at featherweight is the longest active streak in the featherweight division, and his average fight time of 17 minutes and 40 seconds is the longest in the UFC featherweight division history. I also wanted to give a quick fun fact in regards to Robert Whittaker, who made his UFC debut in December of 2012. At that time, Rob Dovasheli was yet to start training pro MMA. Paulo Costa was 1-0 in pro MMA. Alexander Volkanovski was 1-0 in pro MMA. And Ian Topura was 15 years old, just to show you how long some of these guys have been fighting in the UFC. And one quick point that I got for mention earlier is that Ian Topura's younger brother, Alexander Topura, a bantamweight prospect who is 5-1, has signed with the UFC, and he'll be making his UFC debut this year. So just a little fun fact about the whole Topura gang. But yes, as for Volkanovski, I mean, my goodness, just been in the UFC since 2016, been killing it. I've seen every single one of his title fights. I saw him beat Max Holloway clearly, okay? I saw him beat Max Holloway controversially, and then I saw him destroy Brian Ortega, destroy Chan Sung Jung, and right off the chapter with Max Holloway, absolutely destroying him. I saw him try and become double champ against Islam Makhachev and lose a close decision. I saw him destroy Yair at UFC 290, one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time, UFC 290, and then I did see him get knocked out. I was rooting for him, but I then did see him get knocked out in October of 2023. But Volk is back, looking to defend his belt against the hot prospect. Which way will it go? And I'm so sorry, Volk. I absolutely love Volkanovski, but it's the Spaniards' time. Ian Topura is just destined. He is destined to become champion. He said it himself. He said it's what's going to happen. He said it's about time someone like me became champion. I don't know if he exactly said that. I might be putting words in his mouth, but I mean, oh my goodness, what's there not to love? He's got the look, the tattoos, the swagger, the finishing abilities, and I'm predicting a round 2 knockout for Ian Topura. And I predict that Volk gets a little rattled. I'm giving Robert Whittaker as Adesanya their first fight vibes. That's what I'm talking about. Plus, Volk was knocked out bad. You know, he got knocked out with a shin by the foot by the Islam Makhachev back in October, ate a bunch of follow-up punches. Meanwhile, Ian Topura took no damage. He's yet to take really any damage in any of his UFC fights. He's been an absolute fire, and I'll be riding with the Matador to become the new men's featherweight champion. So yeah, those are our picks. Roman Kopilov, round 1 knockout over Anthony Hernandez. Ian Gary over Jeff Neal by decision. Merab over Henry Cejudo by decision. Paulo Costa over Robert Whittaker in a fight of the night by split decision. And Ian Topura becoming the new champion, and maybe even sending Volk packing for good with a vicious round 2 knockout. Ooh, I'm so pumped. He might even submit Volk. We forget that Topura has submission abilities. I mean, He's got more subs than he does KOs, for goodness sake. But yeah, gonna be a fun card, and that went way longer than I intended. That took us almost an hour to talk about this whole card, but I guess I kind of did drag it out. I had a bunch of fun facts about all the fighters. I just enjoyed talking about them all, and I'm super pumped for this card. I like my picks. I'm kind of all over the place. It's gonna be super fun. Prelims kick off at 5:30. The early prelims, that is. Regular prelims kick off at 7. Main card at 9. Those are all central times for Minnesota. Eastern Coast is an hour ahead. Western Coast, what is that, 2 hours? I think it's only an hour behind, actually, on the California coast. But yes, that will conclude this episode of the Surprise Jab Podcast. I'll be rooting for a lot of these guys. It's going to be fun. Going to be a good weekend. I can already tell. I'll be celebrating my Valentine's Day with my girlfriend. Gotta get a Shamrock Shake after we were talking about St. Patrick's Day earlier. I mean, call the parents, talk about all the holidays. It was just super fun. Make me think, you know what? Gotta give the mother and father a good old call. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you next week, and we will see how my predictions turned out. We'll find new stuff to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. No, I appreciate it. I see the listeners on YouTube. I see the listeners on Spotify, Apple Music, and I just appreciate it. You know, if I was trying to think of what was the saying. It was talking about like a movie, a star or something. It's like if who can I use as an example? If Travis Scott has 100 fans, I'm one of them. If Travis Scott has 1 fan, it's me. If Travis Scott has no fans, I'm dead. And that's just who I feel you guys are. You know, if you're listening to me, I appreciate it. Alrighty, I'll start yambling on about nonsense. I will catch you all next time on the Surprise Jab Podcast.